I was curious to know what you meant in the beginning, that when you said that you were looking for something that was going to be rational, right? And then at the end, you explained that again, talking about content, perception. So I just wanted to ask you whether you could expand a little bit on that, of what is the rational for you and how it relates to your art.
Well, rational is something when you know what you're doing. When you write a logical suite of information like a program, and you apply like mathematics or whatever logic, that is a rational process. So if I can extract out of this rational process a visual result, that's what I was looking for. Mm. The process which is rational is not the art I'm doing, but it's the vehicle. It's like the wheels on the car. But I get an image which I could not have found otherwise without the logical instruction I gave before.
So at the end you said all the rules reflect myself and my feelings. I have this in my notes. But what is important is not what the logic does, but what it can invent.
Well, that I apply a logic depends on my thinking, you know. So that reflects my thinking. The logic that I don't use logic or just like that would reflect me too. But that I do something logical reflects my thinking and my maybe change over time. That I became more conscious of what I want to do. So that's what I mean, that me as a person has many phases. I can be rational or rational, but in the one place where I want to do art, I want to look into the rational part.
Mm-hmm. And the algorithm for you has a certain autonomy from your thinking, from what you want to. You just set something in motion that then takes a life of its own, or is it different?
Well, it's when you write an algorithm, first you have to find the logic of it, and you write an algorithm. It does what you thought it does, but it most probably it does more than you can think of. So that means it passes over your head in a sense, and you do things which you could not have reached without doing it logically. So it gives you more back than you put in a sense.
Thank you.
Going back to her answer, which is very good. At the very early stages, people thought maybe when you make a computer drawing, you should also show the program next to it, or you should have all sorts of explanations. But in the end, that's not the point, because the visual result is the only thing which counts, and it's not really important how something was made. In a sense, when you look at it, it is more of your interest if you're interested to go into it. And I think it's not really important to know how something is done, but it helps if you know it. And for example, in music, I always have to refer to music. There's a big question if one person is a musician and plays an instrument, and the other person only likes music, has no idea how an instrument works. They both sit in a concert, let's say the horn concert by Mozart, and the musician knows that this is the most difficult piece to play on horn, and in 90 of 100 cases it fails. He sits there in the concert shivering, will it go through? The other one is all relaxed and just listens. So the question is, who listens to the music better? The musician who knows what's happening, or the guy who doesn't know what's happening and just is free? So it goes through a lot of things that sometimes knowledge helps and sometimes knowledge hinders.
Yeah, I want to just very briefly add to that, because not contradicting you, but I think it also varies from artist to artist. I think a lot of software artists actually consider their code creative writing, and it's as important to them as the visual front end that people see. And I did an exhibition about that too. Yeah.
I, for example, have all my code from the 60s and 70s. I have a library of 25,000 punched cards, which I consider a gold mine for the, in 100 years, somebody who finds that, you know, I mean, it's millions of.
I also, just in parentheses, a very short note, which is a friend of mine was studying Fluxus works in the actual time when they were going on in the 60s, and went to an event and just thought it was a gathering, and then years later realized that he had been at this important thing. And so it's often after the fact that we even recognize these things as something.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing that people learn and know things, whereas older people maybe didn't learn it and don't know it. For example, I once heard a fantastic example in Paris. There's some museum, a technical museum, which every Sunday morning had some sort of conference and talk and about technology. And there was this one person who said, "Can you tell me what time it is?" I said, "Oh, it's 11 o'clock. Are you sure?" And then he said, "You know, you believe this machine that it's 11, but nobody in this room knows how to calculate it. Nobody even knows how to calculate the time. So certain things become part of us. Like in a calculator, you add 5 and 5 equals 10. You believe it's right, you know, it's 10 is even, but it's 10 digits. So in our culture, we tend to put our knowledge on something which somebody else did and accept it as basis. So that's how we go step up and up. But we can't go backwards because we don't know how it works, where it comes from. We just accept it as the reality.
I have a question for Manfred. I was curious about the thought process in which you went
talking to the mic.
Yeah.
I was curious about the thought process in which you went from 3D representation to 4D and 5D.
If you just hold the mic like directly and below you, yeah.
I'm curious about when you went from 3D representation to 4D and 5D, and how like that thought process came about, and kind of visualizing something that can't really be visualized. And like I think that is a really interesting concept.
If there would be a better word for dimension, I wouldn't use dimension. When I talk about 4 dimension, 5 dimension, 6 or 10 or 100 dimension, it's not the mystical part of what things we can't understand about it. I'm talking about the mathematical structure, which is readable, understandable. The visual part nobody can understand, and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested to look. It's like a piano with many more keys, you know. I can do all sorts of operations because the structure, it gets bigger and bigger and is more powerful of doing things. And that's what I'm interested in, to have a very large vocabulary and to do fantastic stuff with it. It unfortunately is called dimension, and everybody sees all sorts of phantasms, but it's not about that. It's not even about the mathematics about it. It's that I have an incredible alphabet. And that's what I'm using.